Hello, everyone.
Please do.
Welcome everyone to episode 2 of Toon Talk 2.0. We've got our first and a very special guest this week. Virus, would you like to introduce your friend for everyone?
Yeah, well, he's not my friend. Actually, he's a guy that I was walking in the streets that I found him. The real guest wasn't able to make it, so he's gonna pretend to be Alexander. I'm just kidding, guys. I know Alexander for a long time. His name is Alexander Sakal. I invited him. He is a well-known person in the circle of Magic the Gathering for many, many years. Now professional poker player, and we want and well-known and culture in the pop, cartoonish movies and everything that we talk about in this podcast. So, welcome, Alexander. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you for coming. So, on this week's episode, we're going to meander a lot. Essentially, we're going to be talking to Alexander about Magic the Gathering and poker, but we're going to, like Virus said, take a walk down the what would you call it, the road of nostalgia that I think
I
all of
will call
us
it nostalgia and magic.
there
Like the
nostalgia.
writers,
I
like the
like
writers were nice to say that to write in our script.
I like that. I like that. But yeah, so essentially, we're going to just go back. We're going to go back in time in our minds to the glory days of Saturday morning cartoons and discuss cartoons of the 80s and 90s, but with a bit of a twist because not only are we going to be talking about cartoons of the 80s and 90s in the USA, we're also going to learn a lot about how it was in Mexico. Virus is going to educate us on that. And we're just going to open a whole can of worms when it comes to Magic the Gathering because Magic the Gathering holds a very special place in my life. I was never very good, but I had a lot of fun.
Just
It's
before
great.
we jump, sorry, Alexander, I cut you off. Please go ahead.
Yeah, the thing about Magic the Gathering, at least for me, and I guess I'm right about this, but I think it's the greatest game ever invented. Like, no lies about that. Like, it's just such a good game. Like the strategy about it, and the social element that you get by playing the game, and the competition as well. It really it really brings something into your life. You know what I mean?
I think
Two
that's one
things.
oh go ahead.
Sorry, this podcast is sponsored by Wizard of the West Coast. Okay, I need to say that. And no, before we jump into that, as we're gonna be talking about the 80s and the 90s, and we're gonna go back in time, and the three of us are considered nerds, I will quote Wayne's World before we start this and do. Sorry, I need to do that. Why we don't uh let's go in a place I would love to start go step by step. Let's start with the cartoon because Magic, you guys know it upside down, and I want to close with the Magic the Gathering because Alexander is so well known. But I don't want to put in the back that Alexander nickname for me at least. I call him the Oracle. When I have a question about pop culture, it's easier to call him because he's always gonna pick up the phone. That's something that I love about this guy. That actually go and Google it. Seriously, I'm not kidding. So, in the sake of that, why we don't jump into the 80s and 90s and the classic He-Man, right? Masters of the Universe to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Yeah,
Silverhawks, Thundercats, Anime
yeah.
Messenger Z, poof, everything that we love about, all the way till I don't know what was the last time that the when Dragon Ball was released. That was the 90s.
Yeah.
The original run, yes, I believe it was 1996. It aired on, at least where I was from, it aired on Fox real early on Saturday mornings. It didn't do well, and then eventually Cartoon Network got the rights and basically used it to launch their Toonami block, which we now know Toonami's whole point was to basically expose American kids to anime without hiding the fact that it was anime. And
Just
Dragon
for
Ball,
me, sorry. So you say 1996?
I believe 96 or 97.
So next podcast we're gonna talk about Dragon Ball because I just wanted to put you in the spot because you love Dragon Ball. Look at him, 80s and 90s. I don't know. I'm just messing with you, man. I know Dragon Ball has a big story, but why we don't go to the beginning? what is your favorite to our guests? What is your favorite 80s cartoon, Alexander?
I'll have to go with the Thundercats because it's just so good. Like from the animation to the storyline to the characters, and I think it's too much work put into something like a cartoon. You know what I mean?
Do you remember the Thundercats, Jake?
Yes, I know about the Thundercats. However, I was born in '87, so I was probably too young to experience it in
Yeah.
in proper time. It would have been retroactive. So that's why I'd probably have to side with TMNT because I grew up with TMNT. I have been a Ninja Turtles fan for as long as I can remember. And I love that franchise because literally from first memories, can't remember past them, to now, TMNT fan. And I love that the franchise is still around. And recently had its latest installment in Mutant Mayhem, which I was pleasantly surprised by.
With to Seth Rogen, right? He brought it back.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the producer, I think. Did he direct the movie or is just a producer?
I know he was a writer and I believe a producer. No,
A writer.
he did not direct it, but he was heavily involved.
There you go. So for our younger audience, including my co-host, let me tell you something about the Thundercats before I tell you my favorite one. Thundercats was a group of mutant cats, if you will. You can say mutants because actually that was the race where they grew up
All right.
in Thundera.
Right.
Thundera, that was the name. So it's the explosion of Thundera make these survivors go to a new world that is considered the third world.
Right. Third
Okay,
Earth. Yeah.
the third Earth, correct? And over there we find the evolution of Leon O, that is gonna be is the king of the lions. He's a survivor, and we have this spectrum guy called that is a resemblance of Yoda, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Actually, his name is Jaga. I don't know. I don't think the writers were too deep. It's like, oh, we need a name like Yoda. Let's do Jaga, right? And he's protected by the guy that is the inventor, right?
Panthro.
Uh,
Yeah.
Panthro, correct? His bodyguard that it will be Tiger O, right? That's his name, Tiger O.
Tigra
Tigra. You're right.
had a
Then
whip. He used like a cat o' nine tails whip. That
and
was
he's
his
a
weapon.
tiger. Yeah, correct. He's a tiger.
Right.
Panther is a panther, and I got a good story about how this works. And then we have the hottest girl
Yeah.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
Chitara.
Yeah.
Chitara was the hottest body with a face like Sharon Stone, but with little spots like a cheetah, right? And red blonde hair in a
Yeah.
blue spandex with just the symbol of Thundercats. And then we have the funny guy that it was what was the name of the little cat that was Leon O pet?
Snarf.
It's not, you see, this guy knows everything. So
I,
Snarf, it was the comedy part of the show because
right.
it was a family show and it was a part to
Yeah.
understand how you can build a friendship. And we see the something that we do in this podcast, Alexander, is we grab the reference that generate the changes for good or for bad on society. And the
For sure.
simple fact that how we were established the Thundercats, that he lost his family, but he got a new family within his friends, is something that create an evolution into the American society and Latin American society. Now we have Thanksgiving with friends, right? Well, blame the Thundercats. Sorry that I'm going to that, but it teaches us that even you lost everything, your world, your mom, your dad, and you are the heir, this group of people will love you, protect you like a family, and they love you for who you are, not for what you have. And in the mystic of the show, for our young fans, they have this amazing sword, an amazing gauntlet that holds the sword. He's holding the sword in the gauntlet. And when he plays a small dagger, and then he says the phrases, thunder, thunder, thundercats. And every time he moves the sword goes bigger.
Yeah.
Not in a sexual matter, behave, please, right? And that brings the power of Thundera, the eye of Thunder on him. And it was a fantastic. Then we have a second uh, generation. Actually, 12 years ago, they made a new version in Japan that I
Yeah.
highly recommend. If you love the original one and you are an idealist, you will hate the new version. But the new version is really decent because it's based in an anime for this reconstruction of the story in a new generation, and it's actually you see Thundera. You don't see the third Earth, so it's pretty cool. So that's just a little introduction. As Alexander said really well, Jake, it's a really big, vast universe, the Thundercats universe. So when he said it was a really big work to put on it, sorry that I went a little long before I say my favorite one.
Yeah, like,
Somebody,
well, one thing I'd like to say about what you were talking about, if I may, we're talking about cartoons from the 80s, right? Especially, specifically American cartoons from the 80s, right? Well, all of those cartoons like Thundercats and Silverhawks or GI Joe. Let's talk about I don't know,
Mask, Silverhawks.
T Silverhawks. They all had like this message that spoke to kids, you know, because all this kind of media, although it's made for kids, it's everything but dumb. I mean, it's actually pretty smart, and it really teaches you things. You know, like myself watching those cartoons. Like I was born in Mexico. Like I'm Mexican. All my life I lived here in Mexico City. But I grew up watching those shows and learning from them. And this underlying theme among all of them, I don't know if the animation studios like they had the same idea or they were in on it, but they all had like this message to bring to kids, like you have to be a good person, you have to care about your friends, you have to care about the environment around you. Like we don't see that anymore in many things these days, you know. Like I remember at the end of each episode of those cartoons, you had like this special like service announcement, you know, like a PCA about, I don't know, like eat vegetables or help your neighbors or I don't know, respect your parents or like any kind of good message that you as a young kid, because kids are smart. I mean, like ever since I was a kid, I always had this idea like I like seeing material for kids that is smart, that it's not just for laughs, you know, and it teaches you things, and you, I mean, it helped me grow up like with the right mindset. Like at least that's how I see it, you know. Like what you were talking about, like whenever you watch the heroes in the cartoon, they're always good friends with their friends, and they're always helping themselves out, and the bad guys they're like real people, you know, like they're like selfish, they don't really care about the other bad
And they're
guy.
not actually bad. They want their interest to protect their own.
Yeah, like
And
they're not trying to go above their needs
yeah,
to help somebody else, you know, and the good guys do. Like, so I think that's like a big part of what we're talking about with 80s, especially 80s US cartoons, you know.
and before we jump to the 90s, that's where Jake is gonna go and destroy me because in the 90s I was touring and I wasn't watching shows.
I was an atypical '90s kid, so don't count on me destroying you on that because I'll touch on that. By the way, I remembered the Conan series I talked about in the previous episode. It was Conan the Adventurer, and
Oh yeah, I remember.
how I was an atypical '90s kid. I remember because that show was on when I was like 5 or 6. So when I was in kindergarten, we only go half a day, and I remember distinctly it was whoever got to the TV first. Everybody else wanted to watch Looney Tunes. I didn't want none of that junk. I wanted Conan the Adventurer. I wanted to find out what happened to Conan. But
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up, the morality aspect, because you can't really criticize a lot of those shows for being too black and white, but it is a very clear message. And I don't watch a lot of children's programming, but from what I've seen, it's pretty dumbed down. I mean, sure, there's going to be exceptions here and there, but it's like you said, kids aren't stupid, and but they're not sophisticated enough to understand gray area morality. So
Right.
since they're not quite that advanced, but they're not infantile, it's good to see those stories where the central themes are like, help your friends, care about the environment. That's how Captain Planet is awesome and doesn't come off as preachy.
Right.
And let me jump into something like that, and you guys humor me. The people that are watching this second episode know that I talk a lot, and I love the sound of my voice. And you can listen to my band again. It's perfect because we need more followers. But something important, and I'm going to go to the socio-political aspect of what you guys were saying. The reason why we need to have this special segment at the end is that every sponsor and producer, executive producer for these shows was Hasbro, Mattel, and the legislature says that if you're receiving money to generate money, at least you need to make this space of whatever that you guys call it, sending a message, because the evolution of commercials, TV commercials in these shows was the greatest thing ever. I still go back and watch this show, and I invite everyone to see good toys commercials. The guy, even there's comedians, many comedians, right, that talk about they feel more excitement to watch the commercial that actually watch the show because it was fast. It makes you jump. It makes you believe in it. You gotta go and do it. At the end of the freaking commercial, you're like, ah, I need
Yeah.
a freaking. It was crazy. Why? Because it was like, Destro is attacking right now, and then with the new ship that is sold separately, you gotta come, and all the kids are jumping, and it was the deep voice, and he's like, everything sold by separately. Yeah, Joe, Hasbro, and that commercials were paying for the cartoons.
Right.
Sadly, as time went by, I don't have the exactly date. If somebody want to put it in the comments, at the end of the 90s, it comes when a great Senate, thank you America, thank you Senate, it comes and say, you know what? We're not gonna let money for toys and the toys company keep making money with the Saturday morning. We don't. So they lost the sponsorship, because if you don't show, you don't sell, and if you don't sell, you don't have money. If you look deep into all these shows, they are property of Hasbro. They have a department in Hasbro just for the cartoon. Instead of doing just commercial, the cartoon was the right commercial. So they evoke the
Right.
good behavior and the good message, so that mom and dad were comfortable buying the toy. Now, I love those shows. Don't take me wrong. I'm talking the marketing, and that's kind of what the role that I've been taking here as a lawyer. The people that don't know that I'm a lawyer, I'm a singer, I run a company. The concept of how the political, society, and pop culture are connected is like DNA in a body. Everything is like this. So when the beautiful Senate thought that it wasn't good to keep using kids to buy toys to have, then becomes this revolution, and I haven't said what is my favorite one. I'm just saying, right? We come to this revolution of, oh, now the money is not coming from the toys factory. Now I can do whatever I want, and it's where Warner Brothers relaunch and throw the Animaniacs, that they're rebels, they're crazy, and then the revolution come with Rem and Stimpy. You guys remember Rem and Stimpy?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
society, because before that revolution, if you wanted to have a cartoon, you needed to sell it to the toy company. So the toy company give you a contract to sell the toys, the action figures, and that's how you make a brand. Back in the day, I recommend a beautiful documentary. Uh, it's in Netflix. I will put it's the toys I grew up with, something like
Toys that
that.
Yeah, the
it's
toys that made us.
yeah.
You will see it there, and congratulate. You see how he knows everything, Jake? We're gonna have before we end the show, we're gonna just ask him questions randomly to see how many he got. But let me go to my favorite one. Are you ready? Till the day, not even Marvel, Hasbro, sorry, Warner Brothers, Lionsgate, they've been fighting for this right, and they're so protected that probably I will never watch the Silverhawks the movie. They've been trying so hard, but that show was the shed of the shows. It was fantastic. You have five, four bionic guys, five actually. One was the pilot, never five, just in one episode. And they're reconstruct as a metal body, and when their helmet closes, it looks like a hawk, and they go like this on their arms and they're opening, and these are metallic wings. And the spaceship, because everything happened in the space. You have Cowboy, the pilot, that is the guy with this metal outfit, but with a bandana and with a cowboy hat and a guitar, man. A guitar. Imagine for a rock star what a guitar means in a show when you're growing up. And then on the wings, you have the twin brothers, that is a guy and a girl. See, that moment everything was equal. Before everybody was blabbing of, oh, everything gotta be the same. And we're talking about 1982. You got the brother and the guys in Spanish. Their name were totally different. We're called Acerino and Acerina.
Yeah.
Acerino and Acerina. And I don't remember the names in English. Probably Alexander will know them for sure. Uh, Go ahead.
They're Steel Wheel and Steel Heart. That's their
There you
names.
go. Oh,
They're
still, that listen to the name. They sound like rock stars already.
that,
Then we
it's a
have.
great show, Silverhawks. It's so good.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can keep going with
They're
Silverhawks.
they're actually cops in space. Like the reason they had surgery to like enhance their bodies is so they could go police that part of the galaxy because in the Silverhawks world, the mob actually the bad guys are like the mafia in space. You
The
know,
Italian mafia. Yeah.
they shake down businesses and they like smuggle goods. You know, um, and they're the cops led by Commander Stargazer, which is like their leader.
That he looks like totally like the commander of the Law and Order in the first episode. Even he was dressed the same. I'm not kidding.
But you know what? I want to say something about the whole thing about the show coming after the toy line because it's like you said, like the cartoon show is more like a commercial for the action figures, right? But I don't look at it like some kind of like a cash grab, like because the toys are actually pretty good. Like the quality of the action figures is really high. You know, like you'd see like the sculpture of the figures and like the actions you could take with them, like some of them like you could move the arms or have like some kind of like you know like fighting mechanism, you know, right?
Yeah, I remember. The
So
steel
you have
card in the back has the had the thing. I have it.
I mean it's just you can see the effort put into something because what I was talking about like Jake was saying about the morality of the storyline, you don't really have to do that, you know, like I want to give like a little comparative example with like today's kids shows or like what I'd consider like the best cartoons. Let's call them what they are, like cartoons, right? Rick and Morty. I actually love that show. Like it's so good. I've laughed so hard at it. Like it's just unbelievably funny. It doesn't really have that. You know what I mean? Like the main character, like the good guys, aren't really that good. They're just like more normal. You know, they don't have like that because they don't have to do that. They don't have to educate people. You know what I mean? Like they can just choose to be funny. Like you watch Rick and Morty, they're I mean, you can see traces of good things in like the family loves them each other and stuff like that. But I mean, Rick's not a good guy at all. Even Morty's not a good guy. You know what I mean?
Morty is not a good guy at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
They're not funny.
would you consider Rick and Morty aimed at children or teenagers though?
I think it's aimed at I mean like let's face it, like nowadays kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for. Like I mean like even a 4 year old, a 5 year old, they like get stuff that we didn't when we were kids, you know? it's got to do with the internet and like the quick access you have to technology and like information. But I mean, kids today are really smart. So things like Rick and Morty or like Solar Opposites, which is another cartoon from Justin Roiland, which is actually pretty good as well. Although they may be they may be like created like written for like uh, older people, like maybe teenagers to adults, because I mean as an adult you can really enjoy something like that. But I mean kids will watch it just because it's a cartoon and it has like the colors and the animation and stuff.
Uh, and it's something important to touch about that. After the revolution of TV, from normal TV to cable and cable to streaming, the bridge between cable and streaming, I know that a lot of people that are watching and listening to this podcast, that they don't go crazy with my accent, don't understand what MTV mattered to the world in the 80s, 90s, 2000. It wasn't another way to promote your music. It wasn't another way to promote this passive aggressive sense of comedy with shows. And that, let me go back for a second. When you're a creator in Hollywood or whatever, you go with your script. You don't go to a studio and say, hey, I got this idea. The studio will distribute your project if you check all the boxes. And all the boxes are, back in the day, do you have a cartoon? Oh, this is great. You got to go to Hasbro so they put the money. You got to go to Mattel.
Right.
Later on, when this thing happened, that the the law stopped supporting the spending for the kids, that you're right, Alexander, wasn't a cash grab, but that's how the government saw it. Wonder why? Whiskey, cocaine, weed, they just saw a business and they want to regulate it and take it down.
They were just mad they
The
didn't come up with it first.
Of course, and I'm not. I don't even smoke or drink, guys. It's just an example of the laws how they're applied. But then MTV was the only way, and as I see it, this is my personal opinion. Remember, I don't know the name. I'm just gonna say it. You guys gonna know. Remember the Fatality Deathmatch? That was
Oh, Celebrity Deathmatch?
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah.
Celebrity Deathmatch opened the path for the aggression of people celebrating. Now, if you were 6 to 10 years old, you go out, and the cool thing was watching Celebrity Deathmatch. To answer
Yeah.
your question, Jake, it wasn't designed for kids, but it was great. And if we go back before that, we have the Cabbage Patch, and it was loving and careful. And then we got the Garbage Patch. The Garbage Patch were the dad and the mom that begin, because they create an infrastructure to have a sponsorship selling a gum with cards. So if you see, I'm really passionate about understanding the how and what to know what is going to come next. As everybody knows in this podcast, because I say it every podcast, I own a waterless car wash company. The path to understanding why, and what is going to be next is really important for everything I do, with music, with the law, with our businesses. And now addressing completely, if we understand the garbage patch, the cabbage patch, people were looking at, what was the name? I'm gonna say it in Spanish, guys, so Alexander can tell me the name in English. Rosita Fresita. What was the name of that cartoon?
Strawberry shortcake.
Strawberry shortcake. In Spanish, was Rosita Fresita. That means little rose, little strawberry, right? So, what was the name again, Alexander? Sorry.
Strawberry shortcake. Just like the
Strawberry, the strawberry shortcake. So strawberry shortcake was nice and beautiful, and the
yeah.
kids of that generation were like, well, the girls. It was really separated the male and the female. A girl will be like, oh my god, I don't watch G.I. Joe, right? Yes, for whatever that making numbers, I'm fucking old. This is just buttocks, right? So G.I. Joe, the kids were like, we're G.I. Joe, Team G.I. Joe, Team Barbie. It was clear as that. And if you go right now and stream, what is the line of Stream Adult? The
Adult
channel
Swim.
Stream
Oh,
Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Everything that you see there is what I'm talking about. And if you know this story, when you see why Barbie comes and then the GI Joe comes, it will be more funny for you. But that's a retaliation of society when they confront not having budget from the big companies to make toys. So they need to generate something that it was the contraposition of what was being sweet and having a message. That it was the best comparable is the same company, Cabbage Patch, Garbage Patch. They realized that they was making more money, way more money. So then we had Celebrity Deathmatch. And then we have Rem and Stimpy. I remember being a kid when everybody was talking in Latin America how Rem chopping to pieces the Stimpy, and it was funny, right? Remember Pinky and the Brain?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The same stuff, right? It was aggressive, passive aggressive, and then we complain that now 36-year-old women are passive aggressive. Everything comes from a place, everything.
Of
Um,
course.
but going back to the shows, because I know I'm gonna get political, and Jake is making his face of here we go again.
Oh no, I'll get political.
Yeah.
No, 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 I'm just kidding. No, I was just kidding. I was just kidding.
Oh no, just don't get me started. I'll get political.
No, 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 I'm just kidding. I was kidding. So thank you very much. That was all for today. I'm just fucking with you. So
Well, no, but
the
before,
point is,
sorry, not to cut you off, but before, because you're 100% right. There were a myriad of factors, but all of those shows had one thing in common, and they were it was a combination of the original audience maturing, and then, like you said, the toy funding wasn't available. The creators were fed up with maybe doing all the black and white storytelling, especially the unsophisticated kind. But they all have one thing in common, and that was subversion. The problem with that is if you're only setting out to subvert your project, while it may be good, it may be funny, but it does lack a certain soul to it at times. Now, Ren and Stimpy is an exception because not only were they subverting, but they used core storytelling motifs and classical writing with a bit of a twist to make it funnier or raunchier. But I don't think you could deny that Celebrity Deathmatch, while hilarious, I mean, it didn't have anything substantial to it. It was for the laughs, right?
it was for the laugh, but it was sending a big message to society.
Right, but
So I'm
I
gonna
guess
grab the identity of the rock star or the celebrity, and I'm gonna destroy it because back in that time we didn't have a space to put. See, Kim Kardashian, that I love her. I hate her, but I love her, right? I cannot go online and put, oh, look at her hot body, but I hate her. We didn't have that space. So MTV was taking care of that for us. So
sure.
people vote. Actually, people vote to see who was going to be winning the
Right,
match.
right. But the point I'm making, though, is the negative side effect of that affects culture because what the shows that came before did was they set up a baseline morality that wasn't super rigid, but it was like, hey, listen, these are the heroes, this is what the good guys do, and very not subconscious because it wasn't brainwashing, they were very on the nose, but to kids it wasn't so obvious. It set up kind of a moral baseline that was, granted, it was an ideal, but it was an ideal that one could strive for. And when that went away from such a young age, you see what happens over time. There's no denying. Like I have a 15-year-old nephew, and while he's a very good kid, but you can just tell there's not that same moral baseline. There's a different one, but it's not nearly like what it was even when I was growing up, and certainly not the one that was set forth when my parents grew up. Now, is that good or bad? I don't know. Time will tell. But I see a lot of people that I would consider just shittier human beings compared to when I was younger. Because and the thing I always say is, and you guys will agree to this, it wasn't just in cartoons, it was even on sitcoms and whatnot. The kids steal something.
Yeah.
What did the parents do? You're gonna go back there, you're gonna return it, you're gonna apologize. Guess what? You can't do that today.
No.
Because
if you do that, you will be charged and it will be worse. And then you're going to have, and you're hoping that the thing that you stole didn't belong to a Karen. Because then we're like, yeah, it's crazy. You're right. I mean, the whole society, like you say, I agree with you 100%. It's not good or bad, right? But, and I'm gonna claim this, and I can go to a notary and put it in paper. The reflection of society in America is based in the entertainment, and the reflection of Mexico is a reflection of the copycat to America, and that one underneath.
Yeah, if I may come in here, like I said, I was born in Mexico. I lived in Mexico my whole life. I am Mexican. Although I've been, well, yeah, educated by American media because I just love American culture, especially American pop culture. Like obviously the history of the country and all that. But um, to what we're talking, yeah, living in Mexico ever since the country. I mean, I don't want to badmouth my country because, like, I actually like. I don't want to say I love my country, but I mean, like, I don't hate it. But yeah, people here in Mexico, they are almost everybody um, um, on the same page about like not being very idealistic with those kind of things. You know, like in Mexico, if you're walking behind someone and they drop their wallet, you'll just take it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's no scenario in my mind where somebody is like gonna think like I gotta be a better person and like I'm gonna, forsake my profit right now just to be better. I mean, it seems naive to people here. Um, America, on the other hand, I think it thrives on those ideals. I think they love those ideals. I think the country was built on those ideals. Like that's what I think. Like from
And you're right, but
it.
my point is everything comes from entertainment. You turn on the TV right now, well, and you go to, I'm not gonna say Disney because it's gonna be too obvious, but let's say I go to Amazon Prime and I put show me your recommendation, and they're gonna show me the Lord of the Rings that it was written how many years ago, and how it was projected, right, the movies. What the movie tell us: stick with your friend,
Yeah,
believe in their mission, put your friends on top of your needs, and help him to destroy for the greatest good. And I can put that example in every show, right, with their variables, obviously. All those things generate the pop culture, and that's what I love about my life. My life, and that's probably what Alexander and me are friends, because believe it or not, guys, I know when I'm saying you're gonna be like, oh, of course. We met in a comic store playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's how we
right.
met.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the American, like I said in the last episode, in Mexico there's no racism, it's classism. So, and Jake laugh about me when I come to the States and say I play Dungeons and Dragons, thinking that it was cool like in Mexico, and over here the
I
culture marked me as geek.
I did no such thing. I am not the person to use as an example because I was the clueless nerd when I was younger. I was like, "How are you all not obsessed with this? This is awesome." They're just like nerd. So I'm not the right guy to criticize that.
No, no, you didn't criticize it. You laugh at me when I told you, or you laugh with me when I
I
told you
laughed
the
with
story.
you. Well, because
Yeah.
I experienced very much the same thing, but from a not so much not being from here, but coming from a place of pure naivete. It's like, oh, I like it, so everybody's gonna like it. Turns out, girls in middle school and high school don't really like Star Trek.
Well,
What a
yeah, of course not.
It's the damnedest thing. But I did
But
want
but
to.
but
I
not in the whole world now. Nowadays,
don't
they
don't
love everything.
don't get me started. It's
Please
it's bullshit. It's
remember
bullshit.
that we can edit and everything. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I got. I wouldn't go so far as to say I got hardcore bullied, but I got bullied and ridiculed for liking anime and cartoons when I was younger, and now NFL and NBA professional athletes are going out there and doing the poses, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's so cool! He loves Attack on Titan too." Fuck you. We
geeks.
did the work.
We did
Yeah.
the work. Yeah, but listen. Check. What is the name of the owner of Amazon?
Jeff Bezos.
Texas.
Jeff Bezos is the biggest nerd in the fucking world.
Oh
and
yeah.
he grabbed it from there and become billionaire because he embraced it. He embraced the being nerd. I mean, look at him till the day. He still dresses like a fucking nerd.
Well, they all did. I never like. I remember when Iron Man came out. I was like, Iron Man? Who? Really? Oh, this is gonna flop. And now, not only does everybody know who Iron Man, everybody knows who Thor is. Everybody knows the
Now,
name of Thor's hammer. And I'm like, everybody knows what a Bifrost is. Like they, I saw a kid, like not a super young kid, but a kid point to a rainbow and say, "Oh, the Bifrost." I'm like, no. Only nerds used to know about that shit. This isn't
and tell
fair.
me the revolution of the nerds we can call 2020s. And the beautiful thing about that is that people are embracing it. However, we go back to my point. Everything that we do in society is based in culture, in entertainment culture. Whatever you want. You want to raise serial killers, bro? Just put more promotion into a show of serial killers. You want to, we know how society is nowadays. Kids don't want to be, this around the world. Kids don't want to be a cop anymore. Kids don't want to be firefighters. Kids want to be drug dealers and having the holes because that's what society and entertainment is selling. And I know we're sounding like old people. This is just our point of view because I we love to tap into pop culture, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do two things real quick. The kind of
two
the
things.
two things real quick. Oh yeah, I'm gonna live long and prosper. No,
There you go.
um, the end of the idea that I was kind of putting out is that now, because again, for good or ill, we live in a society that went from do the right thing to now it's cover your ass.
Yeah.
And then the other anecdotal about like, because kids today, like I'm not actually envious of them. I'm happy for them because I was in the gym the other day. Actually, it was only like this was on Sunday, and I saw three kids who were they're probably no older than 15, like between the ages of 13 and 15, and they're big dudes, like they're slinging heavy weight,
I know.
and one of them comes over, and he's wearing they're not knee compressors that have the Scout Regiment emblem from Attack on Titan on them. And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
notice another dude turns around and he's got Goku on his tank top. And I can kind of sort of hear the music on their phone and it sounds like BTS, something along that. And I'm just like, and one of the kids, I heard him talking about like practice, so I'm assuming he was in sports or something. I'm just like, when the hell did this happen?
Yeah, it's called the revolution of the nerds, man.
Well,
The nerdy things.
because all the nerds grew up and got into positions of decision making.
No, 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 no. Just like the girl, the nerds grew up and had a kid and indulged them into the cool thing without the feeling of making them feel bad, right? Of liking the Star Wars. That's what it is. It's the evolution of mother and parenthood. And I will not go there. This could be for next episode how pop culture damage or create family standards. But if you see, it's like it's an equation. Mom and dad in the 50s, we go to war to Vietnam. Mom, dad, then the kid is gonna be more sensitive. He's gonna have testosterone, so we're gonna have getting into more fights because he needs to compensate the lack of father figure. Then we go to the next one and the next one, and we can actually. I'm gonna prepare a whole thing, so we realize what nowadays we have a woman of 28 years old that is a mom saying, "My kid needs to compete just for the effort he's gonna receive a trophy." Fuck that shit. You need to go there and fight to be the best because that little kid that is getting a trophy just to participate, when he grows up, he goes to a company and tells you, no, you're fired. Why? Because that guy is more prepared than you. Oh, but I'm making an effort. That's not worth it in real life. Get the hell out of here.
Well, isn't
But we
that
can talk about that later. But all
well?
that comes from entertainment.
Well, but isn't that interesting too that we have gone from a society because I'm even when I was younger it was more and they weren't saying this falsely, it was true. I had so many mentors and people above me that would say I'd rather you go out there and lose but having given it your all than go out there and half-ass and win or lose and be a sore loser. And they meant it.
I have two mentors over me, but they're in jail doing 25 to 35 for abusing. They were over me. Sorry, couldn't help myself. I've been watching a show about prison, so excuse me.
Well, you want to know what
I know, Jake.
about all that? Um, I think it has to do with acceptance. With like the thing about why people nowadays are more open to accept that they like things like anime or cartoons or something like that. I think it has to do with acceptance, and that we don't wanna like come to our group of friends with something that we know they'll see as corny or childish or just plain stupid. We always want to like be cool, and like when we talk about things we like with our friends, we want them to be with us and be like, yeah, I like that too, that's really good. And the thing about what you were saying, Max, about participation trophies and stuff like that, it's because
Virus.
I'm sorry, man, it's just your next screen. What?
I know. I know. I'm just kidding. Everybody knows my name.
Uh,
He's not Superman Clark
I
Kent
th-
thing. It's okay.
I think it has to do with like trying not, like we don't want people feeling excluded. Like we're working on that as a society, like just finding the way to change excluding people from things like if I come to you guys and I'm like, you know what, I love Star Trek, like not you guys because you love Star Trek too, but like just regular school people or like whatever, like work colleagues. I'm like, I love Star Trek, and then they just go like, oh, that's for kids, or like that's just stupid, or I don't watch it. I'm gonna feel bad about opening my mouth. I'm gonna be like, why did I say that? I'm gonna be better off just talking about sports or like I don't know,
And
money,
that's
maybe.
how it was in the 80s and the 90s. You needed to adapt to society,
Of
not
course,
society adapt to you.
right? But nowadays things are more open because we have the advantage of technology, and like we have, I mean, I don't know if I'm right about this, but we are smarter, aren't we? Like, just having access to more information makes you smarter as a whole, as a whole of society. Like, the average, like, I know there's a lot of dumb people out there. Like, I know that. I live in Mexico City, dude.
Not
Like,
everyone that is listening to that podcast, everyone that is listening to this podcast is awesome. So besides the people that don't like
like on
this
average, like,
podcast, go
okay,
ahead.
let's put it this way, okay? Like, dumb people are gonna be dumb no matter what, but smart people are smarter today than they were 20 years ago, right?
I'd agree with
So
that.
about things like Star Trek, you know what I'm talking about. Like maybe in the 80s, if I mentioned I don't know, like Dragon Ball, like in the 90s, like early 90s or whenever it came out, maybe you wouldn't know what I'm talking about back then because you had to like buy the manga or like something like that, or like know somebody that introduced you into that world.
That
But now
lead to Japan or something like that. Yeah.
I can say like almost anything like I can think of that has to do with media. If I mention it to you, you'll you'll know what I'm talking about. Maybe you'll take part in it and like realize how good it is. Like to Jake's story about the gym bros. Uh, the
Oh
the
no, I mean I'm happy for them. I'm just like, to me
oh,
it was kind of bizarro world.
no, because they
First of
recognize
all, you lie.
material and,
You,
and, and
you
they like.
said, go ahead.
No, because like if you're a kid, like if you're a 15-year-old today and you watch any Dragon Ball episode, like one of the originals, like and you realize that Goku is a really good guy and he's just like there's no malice in him, you're gonna like that. I mean, you're gonna wanna wear a T-shirt with that guy on.
I just want to correct myself. I said that you lied because we know that you and me are jealous of those two kids. Because I would love to be 15 and be able to put a T-shirt. And second, nobody believed that you were working out on a Sunday, Jake. Please
I
stop lying to the audience.
actually Sunday's my only day off, so that's
I know, I
that's
know, I know. I'm just kidding.
no,
I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't say I was jealous because I have an odd perspective on a great many things, but like I said, I was never hardcore bullied, which is probably why I feel this way. But I'm okay with it. But my entire life, I was, even among my friends who were nerds, I was the one who was like, yeah, that was cool, but check out this episode of Star Trek where they go back in time and play with the tribbles because that's awesome. And they're like, what was this like? There's no fighting. And I'm like, I know, but see, like that guy right there is Benjamin Sisko, and he's from Deep Space Nine, but he's talking to Captain Kirk, and they're not in the same because they did it. That's cool.
I got a question. You were bullied or you weren't bullied?
I was not. I mean, I was made fun of here and there, but I would never say I was hardcore bullied because that negates people who were
So,
actually bullied.
have you ever heard the phrase "everything happens for a reason"?
Oh yeah.
That now I know what I didn't go to Michigan to kick your ass if you were 12 and you were saying that. I was going to destroy you. I was the Alexander. Know how big bully I am, but I always been a funny bully. I want to consider myself a funny bully. Biggest face. Let me tell you this, just for people to understand why everything is connected to entertainment, and at the same time how a bully I am. And if I hurt somebody in the past, well, suck it up and move on in life, right? We were in this party. I'm moving for the first time to America. Alexander and our girlfriends in that time throw a party for us together. There are like 7, 8 people that we always hang together from that comic store uh, to their houses, and we have girlfriends and everything. And I went on this, and you're gonna laugh, Jake. I saw the first guy, and I say, Alexander, my friend. And I want you to see Alexander's face because he's gonna start laughing. My
Yeah.
friend, my confidant, you know, my thank you, I'm gonna miss you. Then I went to the girl, right? You were my friend, and I helped you into, and I went to everyone being candor and passionate and loving. And when I found to the last guy, and I was preparing everything on purpose, this guy Emilio, he wanted to be like me, right? He wanted to dress like me, and I look at him in the eye, Jake, and I say, you can fuck yourself. It was fantastic.
That's good though. That's funny.
Oh, it was really funny, and I went around like 25 minutes saying everything to everyone. But that's the kind of I believe that bully with a touch of entertainment is not bad. Why? Because we saw it in the Back to the Future. We saw it in a Star Trek. I mean, in Star Wars, Yoda makes fun and lied to Luke when he met him, right? He make him believe that it's not him. He's lying to his face and told him, no, don't touch my foot, right? And throw him into the floor, right? I know backwards. He grabbed Luke's foot. So that's the kind of bully I am. And again, everything is connected to entertainment, but we're not gonna dwell in the past. Emilio, that was his name, Alexander? Ernesto.
Ernesto.
Ernesto, if you listen to this, with all my respect, you can go fuck yourself. Uh,
Yeah, but to be fair,
so
for our generations, that's almost a term of endearment.
yeah, of course.
Because oh my gosh, and we joke about this all the time. Because I do another podcast with who's a guy who we've been friends since the 5th grade, over 25 years, and oh my god, when we were in middle and high school, you'd have thought, by today's standards, you'd have thought we hated each other. But it's just what we did. So now it's like now we'll just look at each other in our 30s and be like, hey, f- you.
Yeah.
So I love
Yeah,
you
but
too.
a kid, Brian, yeah, a kid nowadays sees that and go like, "Oh my god!" And the mommy will be like, "Oh my god, what? Don't talk like that to your brother." And like you say, why? Because the path that we were talking from the cartoon to the movies, and we didn't tap into movies a lot, but it was guiding us to have that reinforcement of love, because it's not the words, it's the action that's gonna take you there.
100%, because it's like we dump on each other all the time, but when it really mattered, it wasn't like that because we knew we always had each other's backs. You know,
I
it
just
didn't
wanna
matter.
I just want to make a moment to say that what I just said came straight to my heart, and all of my girlfriends in the past will be proud of me in this moment. In this moment, because action is what matters, not words. Sorry, mess it up. Let's move on. Um, I wanna bring and I'm gonna be silent, so that's good for the audience, right? I want Alexander to tell us how his Magic the Gathering story, how he got to travel around the world. Probably I'm gonna interrupt you and take you under for some questions, and then when everything comes to the moment, I want everybody, because this is really interesting to me. I remember a guy that he was ranking high level international, and one day he told me, and that's our biggest fight in life. He told me, oh, maybe our second biggest fight in life. He told me, I don't want to play Magic anymore. I'm just gonna play poker, and he become a professional poker player. Until the day every phone that he got in front of him is paid by poker, right? So please, Alexander, tell us the story of how Magic started and how it became poker. Texas Hold'em.
Well, I started playing Magic very early in its history because the game came out in 1993. I started playing in 1995. So I was 17 at the time or something like that. And at first, like there were no there was no tournament scene or anything like that back then. Like you just played because it was fun. I had played some Dungeons and Dragons games. Like I loved RPGs at the time. I loved the fantasy setting of D&D. And when I saw some people playing cards with dragons and stuff like that, I just I loved it and I started playing with them at a local gaming store here in Mexico, right? So like a year passed, like something like a year after like I what I did is I went to this mall, to this like small strip mall where the gaming store was it, and we just played with each other. We just had fun and like played multiplayer games, nothing competitive. And then that's when the game started coming out with like professional tournament, regional tournaments, and there was a national tournament, and they started the pro tour in 1996. And actually the first time I played a qualifier tournament, because they had like the pro tour had like four stops a year, right? Like four different cities with a big tournament on them. And so in order for you to have like the access to play at the pro tour, you had to win a qualifier tournament, which they were held around the world. And I mean around the world, because Magic's been played in a whole lot of countries from the beginning of the tournament scene, like in Europe and Asia and stuff like that. So the first time I played a qualifier tournament here in Mexico City, it was for Pro Tour Dallas in 1996. I actually won that one, and I went to the Pro Tour in 1996. Um, I actually didn't do well at it. Of course, I did not. But I had so much fun, and like the game is so good. Like I don't know how to explain it, but if you see like you take a look at all the other big TCGs like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, those are huge. And by the way, there's a new one just came out, the Disney one, Lorcana, looks great. But all those games, you kind of like just shuffle your cards and you draw your hand and you just like start playing your things. You know, like you can play any kind of monster or any kind of Pokemon. But in Magic, the thing is that you shuffle your resource cards in with your action cards, and then it's just like the luck of the draw, whether you get to cast your spells or not. And I think that gives the game like such a big advantage over everything else out there, like because you have from the deck building standpoint to the strategy and your ability to play the game to the luck of the draw, because sometimes you're gonna lose games just because you didn't get like a good draw, or like your opponent just like he lucked out, you know what I mean?
I got a
But
question for you. How many years did you play professionally? Because you were playing Magic the Gathering professionally, correct?
well, because I the first time I gave it a try, I succeeded, right? Because I went to the pro tour, even though I didn't do well there. But I mean, the next year, '97, I won another qualifier tournament here in Mexico to go to a Pro Tour in Chicago, which I did go there. So what ended up happening is that we had like a player community start shaping up here in Mexico, and out of those, I don't know, must have been like maybe 100, maybe 200 players at the time. Um, the better players started like forming the elite group of winners. We were like it was always like almost always the same five people winning the tournaments. You know what I mean? Like there was this guy, he was the best, he always won everything, and his name was Gerardo Godinez. uh there was this other guy named Gustavo, Enric. I was a part of that group. We always just like started winning all the qualifiers, because I mean the qualifier tournaments were like the only thing that you wanted to win. Like there were no like Friday night magic, or like like small let's play so we can win some cards. Like you wanted to win the tournament so you could go play the pro tour.
Let
That
me put something into a context to the our American audience. Magic the Gathering was extremely elite. First of all, because you needed to speak a different language. Not everyone in Mexico have as an English as Alexander. Everyone, I mean, the guy is white, right? And he can be Jay cousin, right? So my point is like not everyone. So you needed to have a status to play at
of
once. Second, the people that they were throwing this contest, right? They, without noticing, they create a community, and
yeah,
this community was the one that it was traveling together, not just
right.
to the pre-qualifier. They were traveling around the world together.
Oh,
So for
I made some of my best friends playing Magic. Like
I didn't
that's
play Magic. What are you talking about?
not you, but I mean a couple of
Sorry,
other.
but just to put in a context, remember that the dollar is being almost double or 30% always more expensive than the peso. So buying a deck was really expensive.
Yeah,
I this might sound crazy, and probably I don't know the exact rate because we're talking about 1996, 1994. But buying a deck was equal to a minimum wage for a month in Mexico City.
it is expensive. I mean, it is an expensive hobby, and I mean, you have to be able to put in the expenses. Like that's just a facet of.
So, where was the farthest play from Mexico that you ever played?
I actually went to Japan twice. Like the first time I went to Japan, I didn't qualify for the tournament. It was in '99. We went there for the World Championship. I didn't qualify, but my friends did, and I just wanted to go with them, just like to make the trip. But then in 2001, I actually qualified for another Pro Tour in Japan, and then I went. I didn't do well there. Like the Pro Tour is just so hard to win. Like it's just so competitive, and like Magic players, especially American players, they're so good. I mean, there there's just no way to beat them. I mean, it's just real hard. Like Japanese players are real good too, but
I'm
but
gonna throw a challenge of you two playing live in TikTok soon, just for the hell of it. You know what, Jake? You got a friend that is a really good player. You told me, right, when we were
I
announcing.
I haven't talked to him in probably 15 years, but
I'm not gonna put you in the spot, but it's time for you to call him because I'm gonna challenge you, Jake, in TikTok. I'm gonna have my player Alexander. You're gonna have your player, the 15-year-old. I never talked to him again, guy, and we're gonna make a challenge for the people of our podcast.
I
if
mean,
if I had my old favorite deck, which is, and I was allowed to use it because it's not even, when I used it, it wasn't even close to tournament legal. So like now it's probably, oh boy. But that was my favorite deck ever. I got sick and tired of losing. So the whole point of this deck, you'll appreciate this, Alexander. It was mostly from the Tempest series, but it had some. It was a blue deck. The whole point of that deck was to make my opponent run out of cards.
yeah, like stroke of genius, and out of the game, right? Like
Uh, I, I
Bavarian.
I did not have that one. My main weapon, I had a couple of cards that would deal damage, but they would make you discard two cards to put them in the graveyard right off the top of your deck. But my biggest weapon was
Oh,
Scalp Alexis, which was a card that if it dealt damage, you had to take the top four cards off the top of your deck, and if any of them had the same, you had to discard them, send them to your graveyard. But if any of them had the same name, you had to do it again.
yeah, that's a Helm of Obedience. That's the name of the card.
Oh, Scalp Alexis was the name. It was a creature card. It wasn't a spell. But
Oh,
there were other ones that did it. But the whole point,
right.
and people like
Same.
I had so much fun with it because if I lost, oh well. But you were on the clock
Right,
if you were playing me because
right,
like
right.
they knew my goal wasn't to deal damage. My goal was to make you run out of cards.
Yeah.
Let me share a story with you. And
Oh,
believe it or not, I own a waterless car wash. I'm just kidding. I know I used to do a lot. That's what I say. But my core business, and Jake know this, and a lot of the audience know because my name is in the freaking thing, and you can Google me. I own a. I'm not gonna say the biggest Imagineer agency in LA because that would be Disney, but I'm the second one because I got the rights to call myself Imagineers, licensed by Disney, of course. This creating ideas has been a whole life, and this land specifically, and you're gonna love this story, Jake, and I hope our audience love it too. 2001. I'm thinking what I'm doing. MySpace is on the brink of what everything. You had a MySpace. I jumped into MySpace really early, so I got so many followers in MySpace that I got engaged to a girl through. Remember the girl from Austria? We're not gonna say names because I don't wanna. But I met her on MySpace, and then I lived with this girl 3 years. Super hot model from Austria. So I'm thinking what I'm gonna do. At that time, my company was named CIA, Creative Imagineers Agency, and it was in Mexico. I already studied college in the States. Oh no, probably was 2004, whatever, around the 2000. I'm really bad with dates. I say, went to Alexander. I knock at his door, returning from the States. I say, hi, we hug. He had a lot of hair and he was color red, like the Stone Temple Pilots guy. And I told him, I need two favors. I'm playing a concert tomorrow and I need you to play the bass. Remember?
yeah.
It was, and I want to develop a game, a card game. And just for people to get into context, I called him. I needed to call him, take notes, hang up the phone, and reconnect to the internet. Because whatever you guys think that the times don't match with my story is because in Mexico it's a third world country. So we're not as advanced, right? Now I live in America, but we're not advanced. So the point is, I actually managed to have a meeting with the biggest manufacturer of games. And I'm a kid at that time. Because I started college really young, as we discussed um, the last podcast. Uh, I had the meeting with the president and the vice president of development of Monte Carlo, Mexico. And I
Right,
create this deck, and it was a Magic the Gathering, but simplified, called Dungeon,
right.
right? And it was great. We create. I draw everything with paint. I did everything in paint. I don't even know what year it is. Now that I keep remembering the story, I wasn't prepared. Just put it to my mind. I say I'm gonna bring Alexander Sakal that is rated right in Magic the Gathering, and I went and sit down and guess what they told me, Jake? Alexander play in front of them, showed them. I showed them the plan. I told them instead of making board games, that because you're just gonna have the same space of the board, you're gonna print many cards. We're gonna have decks, and I'm making an adaptation for Latin America for Magic in a simple way, with a dice. They told me this is not gonna work. Thank you for coming. I
Yeah.
wonder how many times that guy look himself on the mirror and go like, "Fuck." Because we will be the Magic the Gathering through Monte Carlo in Latin America. The guy didn't have the vision, but it's a good experience to know that I was actually the first What year Yu-Gi-Oh came out?
That's a good question. That would have been the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s.
So this meeting happened 6 months before Yu-Gi-Oh came out, because when Yu-Gi-Oh came out, I was so frustrated that I spent drunk 2 days with Alexander in a strip club that was sponsored by band. But because of that, I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated because, and we go back to what you were saying. Now society accept that is a market there. Back in the day, it wasn't, man. They kick us out from Monte Carlo. The guy, Alexander was there, said clearly, this is not going to work.
Yeah,
Forget about it.
yeah. They
So,
didn't. They just like most people I know, like everybody I know that's not into gaming and stuff like that. Like you mention Magic and they don't even know what you're talking about, and it's such a big industry.
yeah, I
And
mean,
like
first, Wizard of the West Coast bought Magic, right? It was another company before?
um, the game was created by Richard Garfield, and he he developed the game with Wizards of the Coast with his friend. His name was Peter Atkins, something like that. Peter Atkinson, I guess that's the name of the CEO back then in Wizards of the Coast. But
Don't
after
Nobody remembered the other guy, so it's okay. Ask Steve Jobs.
no, they sold the game. They sold the company to Hasbro.
To
So Hasbro
Hasbro. That was
owns,
my thinking of what I remember that you told me that there were so.
yeah, from a
Uh,
long. So yeah, it really it really blew up because of that.
yeah.
You know.
You just made me remember. I've got a Yeah, he's a friend. I haven't seen him for many many years, but I was trying. Not trying to oversell it, but certainly a friend of a friend. But he was a friend that I knew in high school, but we didn't go to school together. We met through mutual friends. But he works, and I just texted my other friend to ask. I was like, he works for a gaming company in San Francisco or just outside of San Francisco. It's not Magic caliber, but apparently it's big. I hadn't heard of it, but I just texted her, and maybe because you guys might recognize it. I don't know if you will, but hopefully she gets back
uh,
to me.
Great. What about the transition to becoming a poker player
Well, after playing Magic for about mm,
till the day?
maybe was like 7 years, maybe it was 7 or 8 years, around 2003 or 2004. For I actually I didn't quit playing Magic because I've never quit, but I just stopped like going to so many tournaments, and I didn't go to any more pro tours. I had a band, as you well know, where we played Blink 182 covers. Remember that?
Yeah, of
So I
course, I remember that.
was focusing more on that. I know you remember that. So I started focusing more on that, on playing with our band, and I didn't put that much effort into Magic anymore. Uh, and I don't know, like I was like one day I went with guitar player, the girl I played with. We went to this arcade to play arcade games here in Mexico, and I saw like a poster, like I don't know what it was, but it was on the wall. It was one of those flyers, where it said poker tournament somewhere on the south side of the city, and I was like poker tournament, like, and I knew what Texas Hold'em was because I'm talking about like 2003 or 2004, where it's the year Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker, and just poker had like this big boom worldwide. And I talked to a couple of friends from Magic, and I mean we were already good friends because of playing Magic for so long together, and we traveled a lot and stuff like that. So we decided to go to this poker tournament, right? And one of my friends made the final table. He cashed for fifth place or something like that. I don't remember what I did there. I guess I came in like 13th or something like that. And from there, the poker scene in Mexico was like non-existent. Like now, if you go, if you want to go play poker in Mexico City, there's like a bunch of places you can go. Like there's like a bunch of casinos where you can go play poker, like real life, not even on the machine, you know. But back then, around 2006 to 2006 or something like that, there were no casinos in Mexico with like live poker
There
table.
weren't against we're against the law. For people to understand the context,
It is illegal.
the first casino officially, and now, well, the first casino license was expedited to my brother in 2008. That's what I was so attached to that. We never accomplished to open it for other reasons, but I know it was illegal. Till the day it's not illegal, it's between the lines in Mexico, but now it's casinos that you can play.
Yeah, laws in Mexico are kind of flexible. You know what I mean? But
Flexible.
yeah, but so I met this group of people that organized the poker tournament, and they're all like older gentlemen, you know, and but there was a community of poker players in Mexico, you know, people that wanted to play poker and tournaments and stuff like that. So around that time, I went to Las Vegas to stay with a friend for like maybe 3 or 4 months, and while staying there in Vegas with my friend, I met his dealer friends, you know, his casino poker dealer friends, and I started picking up the whole dealing thing, you know, and I started learning how to deal cards. And when I came back to Mexico, I found myself. I went to this guy who made like big tournaments here in Mexico, and like bigger than usual in the north part of the city where the money is, and you know, people with more like, I don't know, more money. That's just what it is. And I contacted this person that was organizing the tournaments, and I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should work with you. You know, like there was no such thing as a poker dealer in Mexico. Like they did this tournament, like uh, people they just dealt their own hand. You know, they just passed the deck around, and everybody dealt their own hand. And I was like, let's. I'll tell you what. Uh, let's have the tournament. I'll help you run the tournament. I'll work with you, and then when the final table is formed, I'll deal the table. And they were like skeptic about that, and they were like, "You're gonna deal the table?" And I was like, "I know how to deal cards. I learned from some guys in Vegas, man." And as I talked to the guy, and they saw me deal, and they were like, "Yeah, this guy's for real." And so I came on board the professional poker scene in Mexico. I've met a lot of good poker players, either American or Mexican. Like just like last, like a couple of months ago, like yeah, like a couple of months ago, we had a tournament here in Mexico City, and we had a Phil Ivey come into the tournament. You know, Phil Ivey, he's like
Can you explain the audience who that guy is?
Phil Ivey is an American poker player who is considered to be one of the best players of all time, if not the
Well,
best.
just a quick question before we pass to the next segment. Thank you for sharing that. Can we consider you the first poker dealer in Mexico City?
I think I am. I mean, I may very well be the first or one of the first, but I'm gonna say this like with I'm not trying to be like, you know, like full of myself, but I really I am like I am, I guess
Just for the audience to know, Alexander says, "Fuck the poker society in Mexico. I was the first dealer in the world. Fuck you, bitches." Sorry,
I'm the
I
best.
needed to say
Oh, and
that.
that's a fact. That's just, I have to say.
Jake, this show is being fast. I
It.
just
I
realized
know.
it's
I
been
just saw
two
the time.
hours.
I know. I saw the time. I was like, wow.
Wow, that was really good. Thank you,
Podcasts
Alexander.
podcasts tend to do that.
Yeah, but let's before we go, let's do. We have this thing in the podcast that we do all the time, Alexander. That we do our recommendations, right? You're gonna say a movie that you want people to watch because you love it. Cartoon, right? A weird thing could be video game, audiobook, whatever the hell you want, or in the sake of this, a game, a board game, right? And Jake, please, what is your movie recommendation of the week?
For those of you that like comedies, this one really fell under the radar, and it shouldn't have because it's legitimately one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Came out in 2018, so it's not super old. And I assume, have you guys seen Bridesmaids?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So Bridesmaids was kind of unofficially marketed as the female version of Superbad. It wasn't. This movie, however, was the female version of Superbad. I would actually argue it's a better movie in the sense that I'd say it's on par with the humor, but it's got a better story. This movie was called Blockers. I'm not sure if either of you guys have seen it. So
No,
the
you got me, Jake. I
so
told
the
you to prepare something I haven't watched. Good job.
well for it didn't get the marketing push it really deserved. I randomly saw a trailer for it and I was like, oh, this looks funny. I was not prepared for how funny it was. The premise of the movie is essentially much like Superbad. It's a group of friends, but in this case, it's girls who all decide that they're going to lose their virginity on prom night.
Who's the
And
writer?
um, damn, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're a genius. Um, but what makes this one interesting is you're not following the girls necessarily. Their parents find out about it, and they set out to stop it from happening.
Oh,
All right.
wait! I saw the movie. Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
not
I saw the movie.
hilarious?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good.
Holtz, Ike Barinholtz and John Cena and is it Leslie Mann?
Leslie Mann is in it,
It's
yes.
Leslie Mann. Yeah, I
Right.
told
Yeah.
you this guy's an encyclopedia.
Yeah, well,
The thing is,
the selling point, you get to watch John Cena butt chug a 40. That's all I will say.
so it's written by Brian Kinoe and Jim Kinoe. Just for the sake of our audience, Jake here is saying that Brian and Jim are way better than Jim Apatow. So
I wouldn't go.
I wouldn't say in general, but
he said,
for
I
the
need to bring, I need to bring rating to this podcast. Okay.
Don't be talking.
Jake is saying that these two guys are better than Jim Apatow because these blockers is better than Superbad. Thank you, Jake. I'm just having fun with my friends.
I'd say they're
Sorry.
on par as far as comedy is concerned, but Blockers has a better
It's a
story.
good movie.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I remember the movie.
Well, because Blockers is simultaneously hilarious, but it has some really sweet and genuine family moments that are
Right.
that make it a really good story. So
And we have John Cena. That's the
Yeah.
only thing you gotta say. Everything that you say, you gotta say. There's a movie called Blockers with John Cena.
not
There you
to not to get off topic, my friend just texted me back. The company is Paizo, and the game is Pathfinder. Are either of you familiar with that?
I've heard about it.
Okay, well, I have a distant friend who is currently I think he's one of the developers for all the new stuff they're coming out with. So it's funny how World the Small can become.
Right.
Yeah. Alexander, your recommendation movie. You're our first guest in this show. What is your recommendation of the week?
I'd like to go with something like modern. Like I wouldn't want to recommend like The Godfather. Just like kids would go like, oh, this old guy, But uh, one of the movies like from recent memory that I really liked and I really recommend if anybody's not watched it is e- Everything Everywhere All at Once. It won the.
I didn't like it.
I haven't
Everybody
watched it
loved
yet.
it.
You haven't watched it?
No,
I
not
watched the
yet.
first 15 minutes and I took it out.
Dude, it's really good. I don't know why you couldn't watch it. I mean,
The political matter of understanding that the Oscars were paid by Asia
All right,
destroyed
look,
my perception of it.
okay, I understand the whole forced inclusion thing that's going on nowadays, and the whole I don't know, like racial
Industry.
and all that. I mean, I'm not on board with all that shit, but let me just say this: it's a it works. It works. Like she's great. Michelle Yeoh, she's great like the daughter that plays the daughter. That actress, she's also very good. You have Short Round from Indiana
Yeah,
Jones.
of course, sure, run.
So the movie is actually pretty great. Like I didn't really get it at first when I started watching it, but when you go through the whole movie, you realize it has like um it's really well thought out. I think the story is really well thought out. It has these sentimental moments where characters have to make choices about what's going to happen, and they surprise you as an audience. Like they surprise you with what they do, and I really liked it. I think if you're looking for a because it's really deep. Once you think about the source material, like the whole multiverse, every decision we make creates a new reality, kind of thing. It really can be overwhelming for someone.
Wow, that's a really new subject they're touching. I never heard that before.
Well, it's not new, but it's well
I know.
done.
It's just me being. First of all, I want to be clear. I like Asian movies. Don't take me wrong.
Yeah.
For a specific reason, this one won the best movie as an Academy Award. However, for every person that I know, there's one that love it and five that they haven't seen it yet. And that's
Well,
something weird that we need to figure out why.
Jamie Lee Curtis is absolutely fantastic in that movie. I mean, I know we all know her from Halloween. We all love her from Halloween.
I mean,
But
whoever that fucks Mike Meyer in a way of killing it, right?
yeah,
Has my
well,
respect.
I'm talking
Oh,
about the original Halloween. I don't mess with the new stuff. I haven't even
I know
watched it.
this is that nobody can watch it. Thank you. My recommendation of the I'm gonna go the other way around. It's not gonna be a movie. It's gonna be a TV show, right? Amazon released Us, that is the Old West Facility Prison remaster from 1998. 8 seasons in Amazon Prime. If you have a stomach like long traumas, because you gotta understand that it's a prison where everybody's inside and it's really hard. I've been watching it non-stop, and I'm already in season 4 since we finished the last filming of the previous podcast. It's really good. It's not for kids. It doesn't have a family thing. We're talking about hardcore language, hardcore sex, because it's a prison. It's not a scene outside the prison. So you must imagine how hard that could be. It's full of huge, amazing actors that jump from there to be mainstream. Probably 80% of the every show has between 47 and 51 cast members. I'm talking about extras. I'm talking about cast. So many interaction at the same time. So I highly recommend it. It's called Oz. An O and a Z, like uh, the Wizard of Oz, but without the wizard, without the magic, right? So they changed crystal meth for magic. So that's my recommendation. Uh, what about you, Jake? What is your next recommendation?
Let's
Did I
see.
mess up the order? Did I mess up the order? Did I supposed to say a movie and then a TV show?
I
We're
think
making the
so.
rules as we want it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Um,
watch Goodfellas, guys. Watch Goodfellas.
that's
How
good,
it's gonna work.
fellas.
Goodfellas and Oz are my recommendation. Your turn, Jake. Your TV show.
TV show. Let me see. What am I watching? I already recommended that. So, hmm.
Meanwhile, he thinks. Let me tell you, he's a really busy guy. Jake, my job is to watch movies and sell shares of a company. For those that you know, I own a waterless car wash. Sorry, it's gonna become my joke to say that all the time. But so my job is watch entertainment, learn about entertainment, how to adapt it to marketing in society, and sell shares of the companies that we own. So I got a lot of not free time, but I can have a TV behind my computer all the time. On the other hand, Jake, he owns his own business, right? so he's busy all the time dealing with customers and construction. So I know it's harder for you, but tell me your favorite TV show, man. Come on,
Ooh, that's
something
hard.
that you want people to watch.
That's hard to pin down just to one, but I did come. You're believe it or not, your waterless car wash gave me inspiration. This isn't really a. This is a show most people have seen, but if you haven't seen it, watch it. Would be That '70s Show,
Yeah, it's a good show.
because you're missing out if you haven't seen it. And this is coming from someone who resisted it for years. I didn't start watching it until I believe the last season was airing on TV. I actually bought the first season as a gift for my girlfriend at the time because she loved the show. And I was actually at work and I was bored out of my mind. I was a commission salesman at the time, so if I didn't have customers, I didn't have anything to do. So I opened up her box set because I was that bored. And by the time I watched 4 episodes, I was like, screw this, I'm keeping this. I'll get her something else.
And that's why he loves that job.
It was nice to have the free time, but the lack of money was less than
Complicated.
yeah.
Do you know that it's a remake, right? That '90s show. I
Yeah,
saw the first season. It's really good.
I've watched some of it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It doesn't have
It's good.
the soul, but I wouldn't say it's bad.
Yeah,
You
well,
can't, but
it will have the soul for younger people, like we
may,
talking in Star Wars.
maybe, but it's like that '70s show is a show that you'll never replicate. And I'm not saying you shouldn't try, but there's a magic to that show. It's a one in a million that just it's very much a product of its time, and I just the stars aligned perfectly with the casting, with the writers.
Yeah,
Everything was perfect. So
Agreed.
it's really hard to follow that legacy.
great. Alexander, your TV recommendation of the week.
Um, I'd like I'm not to repeat myself, but if anybody, I don't think you'll find somebody that hasn't watched it. But if you haven't watched Rick and Morty, give it a shot. I mean, I've heard a lot of different opinions about it. Like one of the most popular ones is I just don't get it. Like people just say I just don't get the comedy. But it really is it's really funny. Like if you pay attention to everything because the guy that does the voices, Justin Roiland, he does the voice for Rick and for Morty. So there's a lot of scenes where he's just like talking to himself, just going back and forth
That's
between them.
funny.
And it's if you pay attention to every single thing he says and the way he says it, like it's really really funny. So I don't know about the later seasons of the show because the guy had some trouble and they had to let him go or something like that. But if you go look for the first 3 seasons of Rick and Morty, just watch them because they're not your regular kids cartoon, but it is really really funny and really smart. That's what I think about it.
Thank you, Jake. Your cartoon, strange thing, video game, or whatever. Last recommendation of the day.
I'm going to go with sort of the theme of this and recommend a board game. Which again, some of the greatest things I've ever found in my life were complete accidents or very random. There exists a board game that might be the greatest board game ever invented if you're looking to just have a fun time. It's not a difficult game, but it is hilarious. It's called Quelf.
Okay.
The premise of Quelf is it's very hard to explain because it's a very random game, but I'll give you some examples. You have a starting point on the board, and then you roll dice, and then you land on a space, and you pick up a certain kind of card. And those cards could be challenges, it could be a number of things. One of these was that the player who draws this card now has to add izzle to the end to the last word of every sentence they say, or they have to go back 2 spaces. So it was something like throw me those dizzle instead of throw me those dice. And if you screwed up, like, and then another one was I got this one. It was anytime, and it was like, do not read this card out loud. Anytime someone says this word, which I think it was red, you have to like what does a rooster do?
Make like a chicken,
Yeah, yeah. You have to call like a rooster or something.
like
So for 15 minutes, and one of the colors on the board is red. So this happened a fair amount of times. Every time somebody said the word red, I just screamed like a chicken because I don't half-ass anything.
Sounds so
Nice.
It's a fun
Thank you,
game.
and that sounds fun. That's a fun game. Alexander, your weird recommendation of the week,
weird. Like
or whatever. It
up,
could be a
right?
video game, a unique. When we say weird, or when I say weird, it could
Right.
be a video game, could be a board game, whatever you want to recommend. That is not a movie or a TV show.
Well, I have to go with my number one pick for greatest of all time, which is Magic the Gathering. So if you don't really want to get into it that much, you can just download the online version, which is called Magic the Gathering Arena. You can look for it like that in Google. Uh, you don't have to put any money in it. You don't have to buy anything. You can just play for fun and just like to get a feel of the game. And if you become sick of losing, you can maybe buy some of the cards, like the better cards, so you can get better. But I think most people will enjoy it. It combines aspects from both poker and other things like chess or Go, or like the strategy and the luck from all these things, and it really makes Magic really enjoyable and easy to learn, hard to master. So
Uh, just before I do my recommendation and we go, because we've been a little long today. I know that there's a lot of prices in the cards. So with an estimate, how much money have you spent in Magic cards, and how much money they're worth now? So I don't
yeah,
know if you have a collection anymore, but
I don't. But the thing about Magic cards, and this is gonna sound uh, not credible to most people, but people who already play the game know that this is true. Most of the most expensive Magic cards are worth a literal fortune. Like these
really,
cards are worth like thousands of dollars, and if you're playing one of the decks with some of the older cards, you're playing with decks that are worth anywhere from around $10,000 to $20,000. And I mean,
wow.
yeah, it's insane the way the market grew with the Magic cards, and people are willing to pay these exorbitant amounts for cards like the Moxes or the Black Lotus, which is like the most expensive. There's actually,
How much is the most expensive card of Magic?
well, funny you should ask, because the latest expansion that came out is it's a Lord of the Rings themed expansion for Magic. So all the cards are characters from Lord of the Rings, and they issued this one special card, 1 out of 1, serialized number, the One Ring. It's a foil card
Wow,
of One Ring, and some kid in Canada opened it, and he sold it to Post Malone for $2.6 million
That's so
just for,
cool.
yeah, because it's the One Ring, and it's,
that's really nice. But that's really nice from Magic to generate $2.5 million for somebody.
I mean, Post
First of all,
Malone,
fuck you,
he looks
Post
like
Malone, because I hate the guy.
so cool. He loves the game. He looks just like a sweet guy, and I mean, I obviously don't know him, but if I did, I guess I'd like him a lot because he loves Magic. He's a great artist. He seems like a pretty cool guy. He bought the card.
I don't
You
know.
know,
I don't trust him. I don't know. I just don't like the guy. Anyway, um, my last recommendation of the whole podcast, because before I say my last recommendation, thank you, Alexander, for being here. It was a pleasure. You bring a different dynamic to the show. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you, Jake. I know you've been overwhelmed with work, but it's always a pleasure seeing you at least
This
once a week.
this is my therapy, so no worries. I don't consider this work.
Uh, Fantastic. So this was Nostalgia and Magic, this episode, and I love the name. And I'm gonna say goodbye with this weird recommendation. You know that I don't follow rules. You know I'm a rebel. And yes, I own a waterless car wash. I know that. I'm sorry.
I love running gags, so I'm fine with it.
So there's a company. It's complicated because I prepared one, but my core is telling me to tell you this. There's a company uh, that released 5 years ago. They have the rights before Marvel. Disney bought Marvel rights. They have all the rights to do the comics on audiobook, and they make fantastic things with Marvel and with DC Comics. The name of the company is Graphic Audio. They don't have the rights anymore. Now they just have original material, really good. Please visit them, graphicaudio.net, or download the app, Graphic Audio. But if you dig into the dark web, because you gotta go like that, or you can, you know what, you can just text me or put a comment. If you follow, like, and share, and you prove me, follow, like, and share, and follow again and all the podcasts and everything, I would personally send you an email with this track as a friend for free. Hero Quest is as 5 hours of Green Lantern in an audiobook that is the slogan of the company is a movie in your mind. Special effects, different voices. I listened to Hero Quest with Kyle Rayner as Green Lantern probably 200 times because I put it to sleep. Is I went to Pro Tools and put the 6 hour together, returned it to my phone and put it to go to sleep. It's such a good story. It's gonna enhance your brain because you're not watching, you're just listening. It's a different way of podcast. And I'm talking about this was released easily 8, 9 years ago, probably more. But it's and they have Spider-Man and many, but this is my favorite. Hero Quest is how Kyle Rayner, 22-year old artist, found the ring, found him, and how he became the last Green Lantern. And it's really good if you're single like us. Well, not single, but if you're not married, because we're not single, right? If you're not married, you can enjoy it for yourself. If you are married and have kids, you can share a moment with your kid. Instead of reading a book, you can put the audiobook and imagine with him because he's fantastic. I really recommend it. We are working in a Alexander and me. Alexander has always been involved with all my projects as an advisor. He never asked for a cent for it. He just there as a good friend. Like I don't want to call myself Frodo because I don't like Frodo, but he will be my Sam. I don't like Frodo. Sorry, Jake. I don't like Frodo.
That's
He
a
keeps
debate.
me to drop some balls.
That's a debate
That's a
for
debate.
another time.
Next episode will be what we love and what we hate. Love of the Lord of the Rings. Sounds good. Um, it will be good. Jake face. I don't know if he's switching correctly, but he's making me faces, people. He's making me the
Just
faces.
just so you're aware, kind of a warning shot. I was literally raised on Tolkien. Other kids were being read like Aesop's fables and other bedtime stories. I was being read The Hobbit when I was a wee
No,
lad.
and don't take me wrong. I love it, and we're gonna go deep into next. I love it, but the character as Frodo itself, I don't like it because
We'll have
many
fun.
reasons that I'm gonna say.
We'll have fun because I yeah, but that's another.
That's another thing.
That encourages you to
Thank.
watch next week.
There you go. Thank you very much for being this. Thank you for going back with us and listen to our crazy adventures and 80s. And as you know, every Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right? All the shows gonna be there in YouTube. Uh, we're gonna have promotions everywhere. You know the drill. Spotify and everything will be perfect. Thank you so much to you, Jake. Thank you, Alexander. This has been really fun. I wish we could talk for more hours, but I really need to pee. I'm just kidding.
We could just
Have a
cut.
good one, guys. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, no, I'm totally good. I'm totally good. Thank you. It's been 2 hours of the podcast already, more. So I really enjoy it. Thank you very much to both of you. Thank you to the audience. Ready to say goodbye, guys?
Yeah.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. And and fuck that. What was his name? Enrique. What was the guy's name?
And Ernesto, go f
Yeah.
yourself. That's a good ending.
I have a dream